On the 5-Minute Leadership Podcast, we are all about helping you solve your leadership shortage. A couple of hours before shooting this video, I had a mentoring moment with a young church planter. We talked about barbecue, basketball, relationships, campus ministry, evangelism, follow-up, agnostics, atheists, discipleship, preaching, finances, and a long list of other topics that are pertinent to church planters. I was encouraged with the progress of the new church and with the wisdom and ministry passion of this young leader. Toward the end of our meeting, I asked him a question I often ask young leaders. Who speaks into your life? Who have you invited to speak truth in love? Who do you listen to, especially when it's a message that you really don't want to hear? Without hesitation, this young leader quickly named 3 colleagues, all of whom are a few years ahead of him in life and ministry. As a leader, it's a good thing to have a predetermined list of people that will not only listen to, but people that we have invited to speak the truth. While every leader needs truth speakers in their lives, there are many different ways and many different motives to speak truth. Some motives and some methods are hurtful. Others don't really help much. Some are actually destructive. And when we are the truth speakers, hopefully we will increasingly get better at the love part of speaking the truth in love. That phrase, speaking the truth in love, comes from Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus. In Ephesians 4, Paul lists the leadership gifts that Jesus gave to his church: apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers. He said that these 5 leadership gifts are designed to bring the church to maturity. The result is described in verses 14 and 15. Paul says, "We will no longer be children, tossed to and fro by waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness and deceitful scheming, but rather, speaking the truth in love, we are able to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ." So he's comparing this growing up, this being mature, with being children. And the key is this idea of speaking the truth in love. There's nothing wrong with acting like a child as long as you are a child. But at some point, we all have to grow up. Now, growing up is always a gradual process. It's a slow journey. As we identify and work with potential leaders, we are looking for that progress from childhood to maturity. If someone insists on acting like a child, then we probably need to move on to another potential leader. When we find a person who consistently listens to the apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers, or other leaders who might be none of the above, that person is on the way to being a mature leader. Winston Churchill said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, and courage is what it takes to sit down and listen." Yes, we are looking for potential leaders who will sit down and listen to truth. Leaders who embrace correction. We're also looking for future leaders who know how to speak the truth and who do their best to always speak that truth in love. Speaking truth in love sounds different in different cultures. I was recently in a meeting with ministry peers discussing potential candidates who might be able to serve on one of our global oversight teams. One of my North American colleagues asked if a particular candidate from a non-Western culture would be willing or able to confront fellow leaders when the situation called for it. The question assumed a Western-style direct confrontation as the only acceptable norm. I explained that this person had confronted many strong leaders, including me. His approach was usually subtle, differential, gracious, rarely blunt or direct, but it was never condescending, never patronizing, and never insulting. Some leaders who were confronted or corrected by my friend were oblivious that correction was being offered. But those who had ears to hear were able to receive a corrective message from a wise and gracious leader, and they were better leaders because of the encounter. When I'm looking for potential leaders, I'm not only looking for people who will boldly and bluntly speak the truth in love and fearlessly correct or confront peers, I'm also looking for future leaders who know how to read the cultural nuances in the room. Potential leaders who've developed, or at least they're attempting to develop, the skill of both Western direct confrontation and non-Western indirect confrontation. As I attempt to solve the leadership shortages in the organizations I lead, I'm praying for leaders who have ears to hear even subtle course correction. People who not only tolerate correction, but people who invite and embrace it and look for it and also people who know how to communicate truth and love in a variety of cultural contexts. Ultimately, I'm looking for James 1:19 people who are quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.